everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Ask Me Anything session. My name is Jia Min, and I'm the lead at Parcel Monitor, the leading platform for e-commerce logistics insights. So with our studies and together with industry experts around the world, we hope to provide our community members a platform to acquire knowledge and exchange insights about retail, e-commerce, and logistics. So today, in collaboration with the upcoming eTail Australia happening this February, we're extremely excited to have with us Marcio, General Manager of Business Strategy at Samsonite Australia and New Zealand, who is one of the speakers that you'll be able to meet there. So Marcio comes with him 18 years of management experience in business strategy across different companies, including, of course, Samsonite, Rip Curl, and ANZ Bank. Great to have you, Marcio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we have already received a really good number of questions from our audience. Ranging from questions I like to term as the get to know you kind of questions, also questions relevant to, of course, business strategy in Samsonite, etc. But if you have any other questions during this session, please type them at the comment section below, and we'll try our very best to cover all of them. So without further ado, let's get the session started. So hope you're ready, Marcio.
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So the very first question would be the get to know you question, of course. So can you share with our community a bit about yourself and what you do at Samsonite, especially since you've been there for the past 7 years?
Sure. I was originally hired to lead a transformation and growth of American Tourister in Australia and New Zealand. American Tourister is the second biggest luggage brand in the world, and it's been the growth driver for the Samsonite group for the past 6 years or so. And the support of a great bunch of people, the business grew by several times in the first few years when I joined. And then before Samsonite, I had significant experience leading businesses and consulting on business strategy, which became an additional part of my role now as GM for business strategy, while continuing to lead American Tourister and also High Sierra, which is another global brand from the Samsonite group. So I spent a lot of my time working with our Australian CEO and advising on ways, especially now, for us to overcome some of our challenges as a business.
Thanks for the introduction, Marcio. American Tourister, Samsonite, I think these are very, very well-known brands, I think, amongst all consumers, including myself. In fact, I just traveled for a quick holiday and we were using American Tourister. Handy luggage we've been using for the past, I think, 10 years. So yeah, definitely understand that. And so we have this next question, which also is related to your experience. So someone here wants to know, so what is the thing that you find most difficult and also something that you most enjoy while working at Samsonite?
Something difficult, I think, especially now, is the fact that Australia is more geographically isolated from the hubs. So when I compare to our Asian and European colleagues, those countries across those regions are much closer geographically to the regional hubs. It does make it a little bit difficult to have those all-important meetings in person. But one of the things that I guess that the pandemic has shown is just how adaptable and how adaptable we are as a business to have such good business continuity and great channels of communication, and also to use technology. It's great that we're able to connect so many people the way we're doing now.
And this is exactly what's happening now, right? I'm talking to you, talking with our audience through a virtual platform, and 100%. I think for us, when the pandemic happened, when I say that I get a feeling it happened only last year, but it has been 2 years. So yeah, and we were all trying to get into the whole virtual mode, and I would say not as good as in person still, but I think we're getting there. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely, and I which actually it leads me to the thing that I enjoy the most one of the things that I can say that I enjoy the most, and it's been a key part of all my previous jobs, is the relationships that you form in an organization, the friendships, and how those relationships follow you for many years. I think that's the most priceless thing to me. Everything's about people. The people who support you, the people that you support. It's very connected, and there's no such thing as a perfect organization. And I think that that's also part of what we should get out of every organization, which is the learning that you gain from different perspectives and from different people.
And it's very nice to hear that because Samsonite, of course, is a large organization. So knowing that, of course, there are these kind of nice experiences with friends, friendship formed, etc. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Marcio.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. So our next question is a bit more towards the Samsonite business, of course. And so maybe in your own words, Marcio, so how would you describe Samsonite's user persona? I think this question is a very interesting one. Might be someone that is doing user experience research. Yeah, over to you, Marcio.
Certainly. Look, it's was a Samsonite. Let's look at Samsonite as a brand. So Samsonite is famous for being trusted for a number of reasons. I think if we were to bring it down to a few, it's definitely innovation in design, innovation in function, quality, reliability, and the level of service across a network of over 100 countries. So, we found globally that those elements which carry a lot of value when people go to purchase a product, they have appealed to such a diverse consumer profile base. So I think that one of the things that really makes Samsonite special is the diversity of authentic designs and products that we have. So we essentially have products for all different needs and likes and dislikes. It's quite a diverse portfolio. So it's not so specific for us to describe, it's only this sort of person that is a user of Samsonite products. And I'm talking only about the Samsonite brand. We have a portfolio of brands that range from Tumi at a bordering luxury sort of consumer need, and then you have Samsonite as a premium brand, and that has been around for a long time. So the company has been around a long time, and the brand has been around a long time, and it has had to adapt. So today, if I were to describe the consumer persona, again, it can range from everyone from your frequent flyer, your frequent traveler business person, which has traditionally been a core of the Samsonite audience, to the same people traveling for leisure or families traveling. But it's essentially someone who wants something absolutely trusted with quality and authenticity. So I think that's how we'll best describe it.
Thanks, Marshall. Yeah, I can imagine there's probably a wide number of users that use Samsonite for the very reason that you mentioned: quality, reputation, brand. Yeah, so that's interesting. So also, I think this also brings me to the next question, which is, I believe, in a lot of our minds. So I think we all know that Samsonite, of course, you mentioned travelers. That's the user persona, and that's where the consumers are buying Samsonite products. So I think over the pandemic, we saw a lot of flight restrictions. We also saw a lot of course, border closures. So during that period of time, of course, now borders are gradually opening to a limited extent. But how do your team actually overcome these difficulties during the pandemic, especially since Samsonite may or may not be in consumers' minds?
It's a good question because, as I mentioned, Samsonite has been in business for more than 111 years. So our organization is extremely resilient, and by that I mean we've been through both world wars, the 1929 Great Depression, 9/11, the 2008 GFC, and so on. So there's a rich history of adaptability and innovation, and that's what really has brought Samsonite to the present day, and to, even in this sort of circumstances we're in now, to remain as the leader in travel goods. So this crisis it's extremely difficult, but it's just another example of our ability to adapt. We have been fortunate to have had a great CEO, who's our former CFO, Kyle Gandro, and he's taken us through this crisis. It's any company, I think, regardless of whether you're established or for a long time or new, navigating a crisis like this does require tremendous leadership. So we have been very fortunate for that. And I think Carl's taken us through the worst of the pandemic. Now, I would like to think that the worst of the pandemic is behind us. And again, we are prepared and we're resilient for enduring the uncertainties over the remainder of the year. In any case, one of the when I think of common denominators, one of the common denominators that I've seen throughout, all these 111 years and all this crisis that our organization has overcome, I think that number one is innovation, and I strongly believe that that crises are some of the most powerful, the most painful, but definitely the most powerful catalysts for innovation. So it remains at the core of everything that we do.
That's a great answer, and 100% on a company organization level, on a macro level, or even on an individual level. Definitely, I think innovation is the catalyst for more. I mean, crisis is the catalyst for innovation, and of course, an advancement. Very nice to hear that. And of course, I think the e-commerce industry and the e-commerce logistics industry as a whole was also propelled kind of forward by the entire crisis, and that's what has also emerged. And of course, during the pandemic, which is the title of our session today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks
well, COVID has caused such a horrendous human tragedy of loss of life, and I think that what we're seeing now is another crisis, which you guys are very close to at Parcel Performance and Parcel Monitor, which is the supply chain crisis that has certainly been linked to the phenomena that we've seen throughout the last 2 years with COVID affecting supply chains around the world.
Yes, exactly, and of course, I think logistics companies, retailers as well are trying to cope with the current crisis, and hopefully through that. Once we get through that, we get more innovations, more technology kind of improvements. But till then, fingers crossed that we'll tide through the next kind of holiday and peak season.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Exactly. Okay, so this also nicely ties in to the next question that we have here. Also about e-commerce and how the pandemic has been a catalyst for e-commerce. Of course, now there's still sustained growth. So with e-commerce becoming the norm and businesses getting better at their strategies, so how do you actually ensure consistent growth in your business and not something that fluctuates due to certain events like the pandemic?
Look, I think it's really important to keep investing in the right areas. That every business is different, so I can't give a blanket answer that can really make the needed differences to every business. But you really need the right investments in the right areas, and any business that hasn't gained some traction on their digital capabilities and e-commerce as a whole, would have missed great opportunities over the last 2 years. We have seen e-commerce become essential to the survival of, and performance of so many retailers. So we are investing and will continue to invest in our digital capabilities, and that's not only in terms of your sales areas, but in all parts of the business that support what ultimately matters the most, which is your customer experience.
Thanks, Marcio. And I think you mentioned Samsonite is, of course, investing, ensuring sustained investment in e-commerce capabilities to really grow this part of the business. So which brings me also to the next question from our audience is, so during the pandemic, so specific to Samsonite, so what lesson did you learn then that could be a potential new source of growth for Samsonite in the future?
Well, I think that the number one lesson is, for us, it came quite naturally as an organization, which is to stay close to your core, and our core is innovation. Which has shown me, I think, in an organization I've been in for 7 years or so, that why we have endured through so many different crises in the last 111 years or so, that you stay close to your core. And our core has worked very well for us because it's linked to the one thing that you have to pursue and you have to stick to in a crisis like this, which is innovation and adaptability. Those are the most crucial things that I think gets a business through this period, and they're definitely key lessons, I think, for any business that has had to adapt and to look at things very differently.
I think this is something that we also heard when we spoke to someone from Lego, I think previously, that staying true to their core, what has been working for their business for the past decade or so, is really something that's very crucial, especially in times of crisis like the pandemic.
Yes, indeed. And being adaptable, there's so many great quotes from history about adaptability. It's really essential, I think, now more than ever.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have another question, I think from Vincent, more on business strategy tips in general. So what are the key things, Marcia, in your opinion, a business should look out for to build an effective business strategy?
Look, I think you can never shy away from the fundamentals. There, in the current times, we're so bombarded with information, and there's always the latest and greatest this and the most, on trend model and whatnot. But I think fundamentally you have to take a real 360-degree approach, internally and externally. But there are the fundamentals that I see is that you really need to be honest and truthful as to where's your business at, what are really your strengths, and are those strengths enough to get you through the current times, and most importantly what's in the future when you look at your competitors. Well, this is not an answer I can give in a short time, but there are some key elements is definitely to look at the fundamentals of competition. I go back to the real fundamental models, not so much any new, fresh and exciting new model that pops up, but look at your bargaining power of your suppliers, your bargaining power of your customers. Where your competitors are gaining market. You can never go about it without looking at where's your industry moving, the political climate, consumer sentiment, and everything has to ultimately be centered in your customer behaviors, their preferences, their needs, the likes and dislikes, what sort of needs are they moving towards, which is something we've seen in this pandemic, shifting very, very rapidly. When we look at the movement of people away from offices to home and from cities to regional areas, so much changes in consumers' behaviors and needs. So depending on what industry you're in, there are a whole lot of different elements that you need to take into account. But the fundamentals should never change, which is the elements of competition. And I think that's a great model to get started with.
Thanks, Marcio. So also maybe one follow-up question for myself. So what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out and would really like to get into the business strategy or management space? So what's your kind of advice for them?
Well, it depends on so many things, and I'm sorry I can't give you an answer as detailed as I like. But what I would recommend is learn everything there is to learn about an industry. If you choose an industry, immerse yourself into learning an industry. How it works. Who are the suppliers? Who are the consumers? What's really making a difference in that industry? But then spend time as well really educating yourself on the fundamentals of strategy, reading about elements of strategy from the the godfathers that I call, like your Peter Drucker, and learn from Michael Porter. Those are really interesting and important reads that will give you a solid foundation to start analyzing and understanding more about industries and elements of competition. And ultimately, don't forget that everything's about people. So there's a really good quote that says that, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And it's true, because there are great ideas, there are great strategies, but if you don't have the right people to execute them, an idea is not worth much. So I think that would be a little bit of advice that I'll be able to pass on. Yeah.
Thanks, Marcio. I think the community and also myself really appreciates on that advice. Thanks for sharing. So we're going back to a bit on the questions on Samsonite, of course. I think we have a question here from Lakshmi. The question is, so as one of the leading luggage brands around the world, can you share some tips on how Samsonite succeeded in standing out in a saturated market?
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is really interesting that we're obsessed with innovation, and we're obsessed with quality. And by that I mean at a practical level, because these days I still develop product, and I still have to create a product with my team, and I've got a wonderful team that's become really good at this. To bring a product from concept to creation, particularly to put it on the shelves, the level of testing, the level of quality and rigor that our processes demand is just extraordinary. And I think that hasn't changed. That should never change, because there are so many brands that can pop up all the time, just riding on a hype, of social media or whatnot. But ultimately, all that matters is the product, and how that satisfies a consumer. You can only sell fluff for so long. You can't just sell, an image and a hype when it comes to such functional products. They require a lot of trust and reliability, like luggage. So we stay close to our core, and we continue to be obsessed with innovation, with quality, and we take every competitor seriously. By no means we ever sit and go, we're okay. No, we treat every competitor with the utmost respect, because what history has shown is that industries can move very quickly, and competition and innovation can take a leap very, very rapidly. So uh, those are really critical things, and it's essentially to stay close to your core and keep getting better and better at what you do.
100% agree with you. I think a great product speaks for itself, and of course, what sustains a business is customer loyalty. If you have a great product, you build customer loyalty, and that's how the business goes. Yeah.
Yes, and consumers are more willing than ever now to try something new. And so what we make sure is that we bring in lots of new things again and again. So and uh, and always with the purpose. We're not big on fads. Like, there's always a fad about some, you know, innovative type of luggage, and we always uh, respect and foster innovation. And in my view, it has to make a difference. It can't just be about an image.
Thanks, Marcio. So we have one question here that's more, I think, forward-looking. Marcio, so what are you the most excited about for 2022 as a professional, I think, in this space?
Um, what am I excited? I'm excited about travel, and I hope you guys are all excited about travel, because it's we had a campaign recently that said travel is a gift, and it's so true. Travel, it connects people, families. It helps coaches bridge gaps. I'm really passionate about this because I've been traveling my whole life. I started traveling very young, and I am looking forward to traveling. I want to go. I want my parents to come visit me here in Australia. I want to go and visit friends and family overseas as well, and hopefully, just to see people do better. The world has had a really hard time. It's been horrendous for a lot of people. So I am looking forward to seeing people in better health and having a good time. I think we need happier times.
Exactly. I'm totally with you on that. So fingers crossed, 2022. So we're going towards the end of the session. I think just a couple of minutes left. So I think before we end up and wrap up, so of course we know that Marcia, you're going to be a speaker at the very exciting eTail Australia event in February. So maybe you could share with us briefly like a sneak peek of what can attendees look forward to during your session happening in the upcoming event.
I'm going to share a lot of information, some thinking, some models, and some analysis that will help people across any industry, and that's my goal, because businesses are different and industries have different challenges. I want to share the thinking that can be applied to to just about every company and every industry that's going through the current crisis, and I'll give you a whole lot more of information through some storytelling as well. I hope you'll be able to make it as exciting as it can be, with a bit of a dry topic, which is overcoming a crisis to grow profitably. But I would love to see as many of you as possible, and I hope you can join me there on the 15th.
Sounds exciting, Marcio. Looking forward to all the stories that you're going to tell then.
Yeah, so
So maybe
storytelling has to be a big part of it, because I don't want anyone to fall asleep. So I will tell some good stories.
Great. Nice to hear that. So I think one last question here, also relating to, of course, eTail. So maybe what do you expect to take away from the event, Marcio?
I expect to connect with colleagues and make new connections, to listen to people's ideas and to listen to people's experiences, to learn from my fellow speakers, and hopefully to meet new business partners that can start discussing potential business partnerships and ideas. That's something that I think every business should be open to.
Thanks, Marcio. And that was the last question. So, Marcio, really happy to have you here. Really looking forward to, of course, to your speech and also presentation at ETIL Australia. So, thank you so much for coming on board today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everyone who attended as well. Thank you for your time.
So, everyone, remember to catch Marcio and other amazing senior retail leaders at the upcoming ETIL Australia, a 3-day interactive summit held in person this 15 to 17 February at Sheraton Grand Sydney Hyde Park, Australia. So just for our community members, of course, don't forget to mention our Parcel Monitor discount code for a special discount off your tickets, and that is Parcel Monitor 15 off. And of course, very happy to have Marcio and very happy to have done this in collaboration with ETIL. You can look forward to, of course, more content, more exciting insights from senior leaders like Marcio at Parcel Monitor. Don't forget to follow us and sign up as a member. Thank you again, Marcio.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.